In case y'all didn't know, Black Girl Sunday. Celebrate your girl. Or not. It's whatever.
We hear about a lot of missing children, but there was something really different about Alexis. She was this social media star.
That was one of the alarming things. Does she have a stalker? Somebody following her?
One of the videos captures Alexis Murphy's vehicle pulling in. You can't really tell who's driving.
It was definitely unlikely that Alexis drove her car to some random movie theater in Charlottesville. It was still a lot of questions going through my head. What happened? Where is she?
Alexis has virtually disappeared off the face of the earth. It's just full throttle forward.
It's August 2013. In the rural enclave of Shipman, Virginia.
Go.
17-year-old Alexis Murphy is preparing for senior year at Nelson County High School.
She definitely was a person that could brighten your day on your worst day. My name is Trina Harmon Murphy, and Alexis is my great niece. She was just an incredibly humble, genuine person. She was the total package.
I'm Jasmine Murphy, and I'm Alexis' cousin. She was looking forward to her senior year playing volleyball. I did assistant coaching with her for 2 years. Seeing her play and playing against her at the open gyms, she had definitely developed and grown as a player.
Hey, where my Pacers fans at? Oh, I was serious. None? None at all.
She was definitely attached to her cell phone for sure. If the battery was dying, she would plug in multiple extension cords so that she could still move about the house and take the phone with her.
Okay, my life is pretty much complete right now. Whoever invented this, thank you so much.
Alexis's journey to the cusp of adulthood began on June 5th, 1996, when she was born into a loving, extended family.
Even when she was a baby, she was just a funny, outgoing person. She was always getting into stuff, but I definitely saw her grow up. She was definitely smart. She could come to me for things, or if I had clothes that were too small, hand me down to Alexis. She loved them.
She grew up around most of her cousins, so cousins are more like brothers and sisters.
As she got older, you saw her get more interested in music, dancing. She was forever recording herself dancing. If I was dancing in the car, she would just laugh at me and was like, don't ever do that again. She, just a joy. She loved her music and dancing. She definitely did.
Alexis and her friends spend their free time at a local destination, Liberty Gas Station.
The gas station that has the McDonald's connected to it was definitely like the teenage hangout spot.
Alexis went to that gas station every single day. It's a rural county, the gas station is just kind of where kids hang out.
Alexis's social world, however, extends far beyond Shipman, Virginia.
My name is Katie Love, and I was an investigative reporter covering the Alexis Murphy case. In 2013, we're just starting to understand the power of Twitter, and Alexis got it right away. You knew what she was up to because she would tweet it.
In case y'all didn't know, it's Black Girl Sunday. Celebrate your girl. Or not. It's whatever.
The average teenager probably has a couple hundred followers. Alexis was completely different. We're talking about 12,000 people who just wanted to know what she was up to. She was this social media star.
Gotta go feed the dogs. Don't nobody feel like doing that. Bring your here. I haven't even named whatever.
We would joke about it, and she's like, I don't even know how they're following me. I'm like, well, they obviously like what they see or what you're doing.
On Wednesday, July 31st, Alexis hangs out with her cousin, Jasmine.
After volleyball camp, I had asked her to ride with me to Madison Heights to get my eyebrows done. And I remember we had went to the Chinese place to get dinner. and I took her to McDonald's to get a frappe. I believe we had texted that Friday just randomly because we always do, but I hadn't talked to her at all that Saturday.
Little did she know that was the last time that Jasmine would ever see Alexis. Later that weekend, in the early morning hours of Sunday, August 4th, Alexis's family notices something peculiar.
Alexis's grandma realizes that she's missed her 11 p.m. curfew, which is really strange. Alexis never missed curfew, was always in the house on time, and they have no idea where she is. That day, she left the house in her dad's car, the white Nissan, and the car is nowhere to be found.
Of course, her grandmother, immediately started to call her phone, but it went straight to voicemail. Alexis was always tapped into that phone. When she didn't answer it, that was a big clue. I thought she'd had a car accident. That was my first thought. Her mom works night shift at the post office, so she came home from work that morning and immediately went to the sheriff's office and filled out a missing persons report.
I'm William Everett Mays, Jr. I go by Billy. I was investigator lieutenant with Nelson County Sheriff's Office. I get a phone call, and it's brought to my attention by one of the deputies with Nelson County that this young lady didn't return home. The deputies had already spoke with the family and got a lot of information that I needed to start my investigation. Teenagers, a lot of times, tend to be a little secretive about what they're doing. We have to take into account that maybe she is with someone that she doesn't want you to know about, or she's went somewhere that she doesn't want you to know.
As Lieutenant Mays gets up to speed on the case, he's alarmed by Alexis's large Twitter following.
She had a lot of followers on social media, but with that, there's the downside. It's just a breeding ground for predators. But just in a matter of hours, I had a huge resource available. We had social media experts from the FBI that were devoted solely to that. That was critical in this case.
I remember coming through her social media and seeing some of the things people would post, like, oh, I would like to meet you, or you may see me sooner than you think. That was one of the alarming things. Does she have a stalker? Is somebody following her?
As investigators dig through the large digital trove, they spot one tweet that points to her plans for early Saturday evening.
As she was posted throughout the day, one of those said she was burg-bound, which means she was headed to Lynchburg, which is a city just south of Lovingston.
Her family explains to investigators the enthusiasm behind the 6:04 p.m. post.
She had an appointment for her senior pictures the following week, and she loved hair and makeup, so her plans that day were to go to Lynchburg and buy hair to do her hair extensions for her senior pictures. Her mom gave her the lecture on not spending too much money on hair, and she told them she loved them and got in her car and drove away. That was her very last tweet.
Police reach out to the Lynchburg store she was headed to, but shopkeepers say she never arrived. Whether or not she ever set foot in the city is a mystery.
The million-dollar question is why? Why she deviated from that plan, and was that voluntary?
To track her movements, Mays subpoenas Alexis's cell records. But while he waits for the results, late that afternoon, Trina devises a plan to find her using an app called Find My Phone.
Oak Ridge Estates was the last location that the Find Me app on her phone actually provided. It's a vast piece of property. It's several thousand acres. So a lot of resources from the sheriff's office and the state police are focused on that area. There was a huge gathering of people. There was tons and tons of people willing to help.
By 6:30, there was a state trooper helicopter in the air looking for her car. By 7:15, the first FBI agent was on the scene. You're on a pendulum. between hope and despair.
A suspect on the road to Lynchburg.
It almost made you afraid to even be out at night alone.
And clues from Alexis's final moments lead police to the end of a dirt road.
It looks like something out of a horror movie.
In late July, days before Alexis disappeared, her aunt dropped by her home.
It was just a typical visit, and she was just her happy-go-lucky self, you know. We said our goodbyes as always. Love you, see you later, and that was it. I mean, the normal moments are the ones that are really important, you know. Lord knows I wish I had known that was the last time I was going to see her.
Just hours after Alexis is reported missing, an app called Find My Phone leads police to a 4,800-acre estate called Oak Ridge.
They're searching areas thinking perhaps there was a vehicle accident, that she had ran off the road. We also had contacted the state police for their helicopters to come in and fly the area. So a lot of the attention was focused in that area.
After hours of searching, investigators begin to question the accuracy of the phone tracking app.
Law enforcement find nothing, so it kind of leads them back to square one. That was like this alarm of what is going on.
Perhaps she's establishing a little bit more independence and she wants a little more privacy, as most teenagers do. But her family was very adamant that that was not the case. This probably is bigger than what we think.
With Alexis's phone records still pending, authorities widen their search radius and call in more help, as Mays takes a darker view of the situation.
It's becoming more evident to me that this is probably not a defiant juvenile and this is probably not an accident. So time is of the essence, it's critical. And I was basically the one overseeing all this. We reach out to the Virginia State Police for their special agents, and we probably had close to 50, 60 special agents from the FBI there, which was incredible.
I definitely saw that this was something serious now, more serious than we had thought before.
As the investigation intensifies, the Murphy family's plight explodes into the spotlight.
In the newsroom, we hear about a lot of missing children, but there was something really different about Alexis and how strange it was for this girl to suddenly have no trace.
Family members say 17-year-old Alexis Murphy is a good girl, star volleyball player at Nelson County High School, a devoted daughter who always answers her phone and text.
She became everybody's daughter, everybody's niece, everybody's granddaughter.
But Laura Murphy has been unable to contact her daughter since August 3rd.
Somebody knows something. If it's the littlest thing that they may not think is important, it is.
It allowed people to connect with her family. It was amazing to see how many people organized search parties after search parties looking for Alexis.
My name is Mark Egeman. I work for the Virginia Department of Emergency Management as a search and rescue coordinator. Watching the story develop and grow in the news until we get that call from state police. And then that's when we become involved and it becomes an active mission for us. You have a tremendous amount of woods and country to have to search on foot.
The whole community has mobilized at this point. This was very out of the norm for Nelson County.
It's unclear at this point if investigators have found anything of use for them as they continue to search for Alexis Murphy.
In the midst of this publicity, law enforcement scrutinizes the road Alexis would have taken to Lynchburg. In recent years, it has been the site of a rash of mysterious crimes.
Last count, I believe it's 32 young women and men that are missing on some portion of the 29 corridor. There's something going on for sure on the 29 corridor that needs attention.
Locals attribute this violence to a single anonymous culprit.
When I first started working for Nelson County Sheriff's Office, I had heard about the 29 stalker. There were some young ladies that had been abducted along Route 29 from, say, Albemarle all the way up to Barbersville. You start to wonder if this is something that is connected. Yeah, it was a scare.
It almost made you afraid to even be out at night alone. It was definitely one of those things you kind of opened your eyes even more.
But soon, on Monday, August 5th, 2 days after she vanished, Mays received some crucial documents. Alexis's cell phone records.
We started looking at the cell phone information and the cell phone records, and were able to determine that Oak Ridge that we didn't need to be there. The phone was pinging somewhere else. One of those hits indicated she was in the Liberty gas station. That's where the focus went at that point. We were able to go and pull that video surveillance of Alexis being there.
Could this footage be the key to finding Alexis?
She was there, and she was there alone. So we were trying to connect all those dots and put those pieces of the puzzle together. That's the last known ping on her cell phone. We knew that this was probably the last known place that she was when she went missing.
In the case of Alexis Murphy, police have obtained surveillance footage from the Liberty gas station on the day she disappeared, after her last tweet around 6 p.m. Could this video hold clues to her whereabouts?
It was somewhere around 7 p.m. What I seen when we watched the video was Alexis coming into the store to pay for her gas. She looked fine when she was inside to me. She didn't appear to be distressed or distraught or in any kind of danger or scared, and she was there alone. There was really nothing that looked out of place. And then she exits the gas station. She couldn't be very close when she left. It was somewhere around 7 p.m., and I believe it was 7:17 p.m. It was the last activity on her phone. So we have roughly a 17-minute window there that we're trying to figure out what happened. We were starting to canvass the area, the perimeter around the Liberty gas station, talking to every resident there. We're looking for this young lady and her phone. There is a car lot directly across Route 29. We were searching that area and searching trunks of cars just because we didn't know.
Law enforcement finds no sign of Alexis or her car or phone. But on August 6th, 3 days after she went missing, a tipster contacts police about a major discovery in Charlottesville.
Tuesday evening, someone just who had watched the news and had heard about Alexis Murphy's disappearance had noticed this vehicle sitting there and called us. Said, hey, this car is here in Charlottesville. So, of course, we drop everything. We haul freight to Charlottesville. It was Alexis Murphy's car. I wasn't expecting it to be found in Charlottesville. Wasn't close to Nelson County.
The city of Charlottesville lies about 40 miles north of Alexis's hometown of Shipman and 70 miles north of Lynchburg.
It was the Carmichael Cinema area. Then, of course, the media is there before I get there. And it's a circus. It's ridiculous. It made it very difficult for us to get in there to do what we needed to do.
It was leaked on social media that the car was found before the police ever had the opportunity to call and tell us.
It was definitely unlikely that Alexis drove her car to some random movie theater in Charlottesville. If she said she was going to the Berg, then that's where she was going, to Lynchburg. It's odd to end up the opposite direction in which you said you were going. But when I got the news that they had found her car, I wanted something. Some kind of answer to, besides, okay, they found her car. Is she in there? Or what's in the trunk?
My biggest fear was when we popped the trunk, Alexis was going to be in the trunk. And when we do open the trunk, she isn't. Which, it was a relief, but at the same time, it's like, where is she? And her phone is not there.
So you go from, yay, she might still be alive, to, okay, where do we go from here? This is a big piece of the puzzle, but Alexis has virtually disappeared off the face of the earth. You can't find their phone. It's just full throttle forward.
Determined to figure out how the car got there, Mays obtains surveillance footage from surrounding businesses.
There's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours of CCTV that we're going through. And luckily, one of the videos captures Alexis Murphy's vehicle pulling in on Sunday night at around, I believe it was around 10 o'clock. It's a real grainy video. You can't really tell who's driving. You can just tell that there is a figure that gets out of it. And the subject walks out of frame. It was a creepy scene.
Could this mysterious figure be Alexis? Despite her bold personality, her family thinks otherwise.
She was definitely scared of the dark, so her to walk off in the dark without a light, no, was definitely unlikely to be Alexis.
While the individual does not appear to be Alexis, their identity is unknown.
You can't identify if it's a man, a woman, age, anything. It's not Alexis driving the car, but we have no idea who this person was. Search teams are still out there looking for any clues of where Alexis had gone.
Desperate to understand the mystery figure's connection to Alexis, investigators re-examine the footage from the gas station.
When you look at the video going back, there was an individual that held the door open for her. And there was some small talk.
There was something really interesting, and they see something they had never seen before. There was a man holding the door for Alexis Murphy. And it looks like on the footage that there's some sort of conversation between Alexis and this unidentified man. So suddenly, there is a new person of interest in the case. So we're starting to wonder if it's the same person in Charlottesville.
In hopes of identifying a man seen in surveillance footage, police in the Alexis Murphy investigation race to where it was recorded, Liberty Gas Station.
So there was a question of whether that was someone who maybe was involved in Alexis's disappearance. The attendants who work there were able to easily say, this is a guy named Randy Taylor. He was not someone who just kind of slid under community radar. This is a distinctive man who has this huge Daffy Duck tattoo on his neck. The gas station attendant knew Randy because he has a car that's very distinctive, this camo truck.
Once Lieutenant Mays learns of Taylor's vehicle, he digs deeper into the footage.
The cameras, unfortunately, were not all over the parking lot. But there is a camera that's on a portion of the parking lot, and it catches just a tiny piece of Route 29 just a few minutes after Alexis exits the gas station. You see this camouflage vehicle and Alexis Murphy's white car is directly behind it. She was actually going north toward Charlottesville, and now she's following him.
The big question is we have no idea why she followed him, which is really strange. What's going on?
Mays sizes up the investigation's new prime target.
We've got to come up with a game plan. Let's figure out what the best avenue of attack is as far as the interview with him, and let's pin him down.
Investigators discover that Taylor lives in a camper just off of Route 29. 4 days after Alexis disappeared, Mays heads towards the property.
We had put him under 24-hour surveillance. I was told by the other agents where this camper was located, but I couldn't find it. The grass was so high around the driveway. It goes into this property. So I finally locate this road. We pull in, and we're basically walking up to this thing. It's just an old abandoned house. Then there's this blue and white camper. It looks like something out of a horror movie. I remember knocking on Randy's door, and he opens the door. We explained to Randy why we're there. And I basically asked him about being at the Liberty gas station. We were looking for this young lady, and he said he had no knowledge. He's never seen her, didn't know her, wasn't at the Liberty gas station, had no idea what we were talking about. And that was an important part of the case for me because I knew then that he was hiding something. But once we confront him with the evidence, there's a video of him holding the door for her, and things changed. He told us he ran into her at Liberty. He admits that she was there.
Without prompting, Taylor launches into a story.
He even goes on to elaborate that he met Alexis Murphy probably a year prior to this at a car wash. He was smoking some marijuana, and she had made a comment about the marijuana. According to him, she was talking about how it smelled like some really good stuff. So when he saw her at the Liberty gas station on August 3rd, he knew who she was.
When pressed again about the August 3rd encounter, Taylor offers an astonishing account.
Also, he's telling us that she's with a black guy, and they're talking about a marijuana sale, and Randy wanted to buy from the guy that she was with. So they come up with an agreement, and they leave, and he goes to his camper. Alexis comes, and this other gentleman follows suit. He buys marijuana. They have some small talk, shoot the bull, and they leave together. That's the last he's seen of her. I didn't believe the story, but we could not rule out the possibility of someone else being involved.
To validate Taylor's story, Mays files for a warrant to search his trailer. Alexis's social media is also scoured in search of the man in Taylor's description.
They got the picture off of some Facebook page or something, but very quickly we were able to identify this guy as Damien. Damien was a resident of Nelson County, but he leaves town shortly after Alexis Murphy is missing and goes to Alabama. That was alarming. That was enough for us to further investigate this.
I knew Damien. We went to high school together. So Alexis' relationship with Damien, I don't know exactly what it was. I knew he worked at McDonald's at the time. She always was at McDonald's getting a frappe. Was he one of the last people to see her? Did he have something to do with it? Did he know about it? It was still a lot of questions going through my head. What happened? Where is she?
Police uncover disturbing clues.
We see that a fingernail is embedded into the carpet. Hearing this kind of evidence, your stomach just turns.
Authorities close in on a suspect.
I don't think he expected the rain of hell that came down on him.
And cryptic circumstances envelop Alexis's final moments.
So it leaves me with the $1 million question. How did you get her there?
Investigators have learned that a friend of Alexis, who left town after she disappeared, may have been the last person to see her alive.
So myself and Special Agent Pittman with the FBI, we flew to Alabama. We made arrangements to meet with Damien and talk to him in further detail about what his involvement may or may not have been.
As they sit down to interrogate Damien, Mays asks him about his whereabouts on the weekend Alexis vanished.
He was in Nelson County staying in a hotel with his girlfriend. He said he was at the blood bank donating plasma, and this was right around the time that she went missing. But he wasn't anywhere close to where Alexis was in Nelson County. So he wasn't even in the area when she went missing. He said he had no involvement whatsoever.
After the interrogation, Mays returns to Virginia and digs into Damien's account of the weekend of August 3rd.
We were able to corroborate his timeline and his alibis. There was nothing. There was no dots to connect with Damien. It was just another ploy for Randy to throw the investigation off.
After clearing Damien, critical information in the case against Randy Taylor comes through.
We were able to secure a search warrant for his camper. We executed that search warrant. We go in, we explain to Randy why we're there, and we pull him out of the camper. The forensic techs go in and start the evidence recovery process.
They go to his house, his trashy dump of a camper. It was a bit messy. Inside, they find evidence. We see that a fingernail is embedded into the carpet, but they find a hair extension and then a diamond stud. Hearing this kind of evidence, your stomach just turns.
It wasn't something good when I heard that they found all those things there. Because those are things that any girl, you're not going to just let that go. It had to be taken from you. Alexis didn't have false nails, things like that. It's not going to just come out easy.
The evidence is sent for DNA testing. Then, authorities search the grounds around the camper for Alexis's body.
Behind the property, there was just all kinds of garbage and trash that had been piled up, and there's a mountain. And behind the house, there's a trail that goes up the mountain. We search the side of the mountain to see if he's taken her up the mountain. It was a very difficult search. Everybody's getting ate up by ticks and chiggers. We blanketed that side of the ridge, and we have nothing. No indication that anybody had been up there, no four-wheel tracks, nothing.
Her cell phone was still missing, and she's still missing. We were still hopeful that we could find more evidence. So I actually reached out to administrators with the Department of Corrections and inquired a little bit more about these cell phone dogs.
We learned that law enforcement is using canine dogs to sniff a very specific adhesive found in phones. We start to see canines sniffing Randy Taylor's camper. These law enforcement dogs are smelling some sort of scent, and they find Alexis Murphy's phone just 70 feet from Randy Taylor's camper. It's broken. It looks like someone's tried to take out the battery. Finding Alexis's white iPhone was the nail in the coffin.
This was her lifeline. I have that on your property, and she's not here. Something terrible has happened. So I really think that pretty much sealed the deal. I went ahead and arrested him for abduction with intent to defile. He looked like a ghost. Like a deer in headlights. I don't think Randy expected the rain of hell that came down on him as fast as it came down on him.
After the arrest, Mays seeks out the Murphy family for a difficult discussion.
So a decision was made to set the family down and tell them we don't think she's alive and we want to go forward with a murder charge. And to do that, we had to have their support and understanding that she is dead.
I think we had to agree with the evidence that was presented before us, because obviously the evidence was there, right? And we can't find her. She has had no contact with her family. That was kind of the defining moment to know that chances are she wasn't here anymore.
As the case heads to trial, police make Randy Taylor an offer.
Before the trial, law enforcement offered Randy Taylor a deal, 20 years if you just tell the family where Alexis Murphy's body is. His response, give me 10 and I'll tell you where she is. It's like really unbelievable.
Months later, in May 2014, at the Nelson County Courthouse, the first-degree murder trial of Randy Taylor begins. While the prosecution has a wealth of evidence, the lack of a corpse presents a problem.
This was an unprecedented case in Virginia. To try someone for murder with no body, it's very hard to prosecute without a body.
In May 2014, the murder trial of Randy Taylor commences. On behalf of the state, prosecutor Anthony Martin delivers the opening statement.
The prosecution was able to paint this really violent scene with the amount of evidence that was just found inside of his camper. Something horrible has happened.
But in their opening argument, Taylor's attorney takes aim at the prosecution's assertions.
The defense was constantly saying, there's no body, there's no murder weapon. They kept hitting on it.
His explanation of the hair extensions was the police planted it, but we knew that he was full of it.
After opening statements, the prosecution unloads its most potent evidence, an item discovered on a deeper search of Taylor's camper after his arrest.
One thing I will never forget is Randy Taylor's bloody t-shirt. Seeing the t-shirt covered in not just a little bit, but a lot of blood, you could tell the jury's mood suddenly shift.
Attorneys reveal the results of DNA testing on items found inside the camper.
It was her DNA on the shirt. It's a mix of blood and saliva and fluid. We have her DNA on these hair extensions that were found. They're glued and woven into the hair. They don't just fall out. That indicated to us that there was a violent struggle that took place.
We know that there was nothing casual about this encounter, that it was extremely violent.
After closing arguments, the litigators turn the case over to the jury. Within hours, the jurors announce that they've reached a verdict.
I was at volleyball practice. I remember looking online and seeing guilty. And I just busted out in tears. It was a relief, like kind of a joy for us, because you're going away. You're not going to hurt anybody else.
It was a few moments of the weight has been lifted. We have some type of justice. And we did celebrate, but the next morning we still woke up to the same reality. We still don't have her.
We convict him on both counts of abduction with intent to defile and first-degree murder. And as the jury is leaving to go sentence him, Randy stood up in open court and said, "I'll take the original deal of 20 years and tell you where she is." And of course, it's too late at that point. He ended up with 2 consecutive life sentences and is currently at Red Onion spending the rest of his life in prison. So,
in the case of Taylor's continued silence, anger and mystery linger over what transpired in Alexis's final moments captured on video.
One of the big mysteries of this case is why we see Alexis Murphy's car following Randy Taylor's. We have no idea why she followed him. Somehow he gets this beautiful, talented young girl to follow him to his trashy dump of a camper. I still can't even wrap my mind around it.
Billy Mays believes the footage tells the story of a drug deal gone bad.
I think Randy had some conversation with her in the parking lot prior to coming into the store about some marijuana that he had. So I really truly think that she followed Randy back to his camper in the thought of purchasing marijuana.
I find it impossible to believe that she would have voluntarily gone anywhere with Randy Taylor. Alexis didn't have to go with Randy Taylor if she really wanted weed. So it leaves me with the $1 million question: how did you get her there?
Despite Taylor's conviction, he refuses to reveal the location of Alexis's remains.
I can't go put flowers on my niece's grave. I can't take little pink trinkets, which was her favorite color, to put at her grave. So I will continue to look for her until I'm either not here or she's found.
Whether or not Alexis's body is ever found, her family and community will never forget her.
I still think about Alexis all the time. Her face is on my refrigerator. I have a t-shirt with her face on it. My daughter, who I now have, will know about Alexis. There was such a bright future ahead for this young lady.
I grieve the what ifs the most, you know. Where would she have gone to college? What would she have majored in? Would she have met the love of her life, you know, in school? Would she be married? Would she have kids?
It's still unreal because it's like, how can this happen to her? You kind of sit back there and wonder, what if she stayed home that day? What if? It's always that question of what if.
And they'll always remember their final moments with Alexis.
I remember we had went to the Chinese place to get dinner, and I took her to McDonald's to get a frappe. It's one of the things that I always think about, especially when it comes up the anniversary date of her going missing.
The last time I saw Alexis was the weekend before she was abducted. I mean, the normal moments are the ones that are really important. Family gatherings and parties and celebrations and regular moments. You know, we said our goodbyes as always. Love you, see you later, and that was it. Lord knows I wish I had known that was the last time I was going to see her.
I'm videotaping myself getting cake. Because I'm just that
yes. If you please know where my daughter is, any information, please.
We definitely had to entertain the possibility that this young girl was abducted and taken quickly out towards I-95.
My heart could take it. It was horrifying.
She was able to provide investigators with 2 photos of Danielle.
In the reflection of the eyeglasses, you can see other people. So it's actually an incredibly valuable piece of evidence.
Now this is starting a lot of more questions than answers.
What police find is a shovel, and there was something on there that looked like blood.
15-year-old Danielle Locklear is enjoying a yearly tradition. Spending her summer with her grandparents and extended family in the quaint town of Hope Mills, North Carolina.
Danielle and I, we was really close. My name is Darlene Hegel. Danielle Locklear is my granddaughter. And she cared a lot about me, and we did a lot of things together. Go down to the church. The church was always in it because that's, what we did.
My name is China Papa, and I am Danielle's aunt. She loved to make videos and tutorials. Anything that involved some creativity, she can do it. She really loved baking cakes, that's for sure. Well, I was like, wow, how did you learn how to do this? And her cakes were delicious.
I'm videotaping myself eating cake. Because I'm just that
yes. It was just like a little home away from home. She had a good time coming to visit for the summer.
That summer, Danielle meets a young man who is familiar to her family. 17-year-old Jamichael Malloy.
We've seen him over the years at the church. I've seen him when he was a kid, and then one day you see him, he's like a handsome teenager.
Once I seen that they seemed to be getting along well and liking each other, I felt that, oh, this is a good thing.
When the summer comes to an end, it's time for Danielle to return home to her mother, Rona, and stepfather in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. But there's a problem.
When it was time for her to go back, she didn't want to go back because she had a love interest. And she was like, please, Grandma, I want to stay.
Adding to Danielle's desire is the fact that her mother and stepfather are going through a painful divorce. So Danielle's mother agrees to let her stay in Hope Mills.
She came to live with us, and we were all open arms. She enrolls in Southview High School in Hope Mills, which is like right behind our neighborhood.
While Jamichael starts his senior year 14 miles away in Fayetteville, Danielle settles into her freshman year.
I met Danielle when she had just came to the school, and it just clicked instantly. Danielle is the most kind person, very outgoing. She could make a friend instantly. You could definitely spot her from a crowd. That was what all guys talked about in school, was how beautiful she was. But she was very much in love with Jamichael. She really thought that was it for her.
Later that school year, on the morning of Tuesday, March 11th, Danielle's grandmother and Aunt China are preparing to go out of town, leaving Danielle with her grandfather for the night.
It was kind of a busy morning for myself and my mother. We were about to go to Atlanta, Georgia for a doctor's visit, and Danielle usually is out the house by 8 o'clock in the morning, rushing off to school.
But that morning, Danielle is running late.
I remember looking at her, and I said, okay, bye, Danielle. She said, bye, Grandma. And I just seen the side of her face, and then she was gone. I had no idea that was going to be the last time I would see Danielle.
That evening, hours after Danielle returned from school, at around 9:45, she asks her grandfather if she can run a quick errand.
He said he remembers seeing her come up beside his shoulder and say, Papa, I need to take this binder to my friend up the street. Is it okay? He said, oh, okay, yeah, just come right back. Just simple as that.
But an hour later, Danielle hasn't returned home.
The grandfather said that he's calling the phone. She's not answering, going to voicemail. So he starts driving around Hope Mills looking for Danielle. And he can't find her.
The grandfather said that he hesitated calling the police because he always believed that you had to wait 24 hours to report someone missing. Finally, at 3 a.m, he gave up, went back to sleep, hoped that by the morning she would have come home.
When he wakes up, he begins to panic.
I got a phone call down in Atlanta from my husband, and he said that it's been a while now and she never came back to the house. I'm all nervous at that point, so we started getting our things together real quick to come back home.
Danielle's grandmother instructs her husband to call the police and then rushes to return to Hope Mills.
When we reach Hope Mills, the police are already there.
I'm Detective Joshua Hamilton, and I was assigned to be the lead investigator on the Danielle Locklear case. The grandfather was questioned by responding officers. So Danielle was said to be going to Alexis, who's a friend of hers she goes to school with. She was taking a book to drop off at her house.
But before investigators head to Alexis's house, Aunt Sheena reveals that she knows where Danielle may be. Her hunch stems from an odd encounter she had with her niece 2 days before she went missing.
It was becoming dark, and Danielle is running past the driveway toward the door and caught me off guard because she's never really out at nighttime. And I say, well, where are you coming from? Out of breath she was. She's like, oh, I'm coming from the back of the neighborhood. There's like a creek back there, and all the kids have been trying to get me to go hang out. The first thing that comes to my mind is this creek area. Maybe she's hanging out back there or something.
Officers did respond down to the creek with Sheena. They canvassed that area with her. We did not know at the time. That's where a large group of teenagers would congregate.
I'm seeing some kids' notebooks back there, just like things where you could tell teenagers had been back there hanging out.
However, there are no active signs of Danielle or anyone else. But as the group are leaving the site, Danielle's Aunt Sheena spots something.
And I look down and I see her night sock. Little fuzzy striped gray and black and white sock. And it's balled up. And I know it's hers because, I bought these socks. And I tell the police, I said, this is something that she wears around the house.
It's weird that this particular sock would be found at the creek, especially if it's something that Danielle would only wear at night. Which brings up the question, had Danielle been to the creek that night she disappeared?
Danielle's inner world revealed.
I remember her texting me in gym class, and she just started bawling instantly.
She's really distressed about this, and she had a lot going on for a 15-year-old.
And classmates point the finger at a former student.
The other kids had told the police she had rejected him and that maybe he had something to do with her disappearance.
She seemed like a goody-goody, and good-goodies have a bad habit of snitching.
The day after 15-year-old Danielle Locklear goes missing, while searching a creek, her aunt discovers a sock that Danielle only wore at night.
We treated it as an item of evidence and secured it.
The family then makes a painful call to Danielle's mom.
We called my daughter Rona. She was still at Myrtle Beach. Told her that Danielle didn't come home. And she said, what do you mean she didn't come home? What do you mean, where's she at? All this kind of stuff. And so everybody was dumbfounded.
You can't sleep, you can't eat, you can't think. Now, there's so many different things that could have happened to her.
By the time we were looking for her, she could be anywhere.
Danielle's mom rushes to Hope Mills, while police visit Alexis, the friend Danielle told her grandfather she was visiting the previous night.
Alexis told investigators that Danielle had not come to her house during the nighttime hours the night before. Her friend was not even aware that Danielle was coming to her house, which kind of shocked us. Now we don't know where she went.
Detectives wonder, why did Danielle lie to her grandfather about where she went that night? Alexis goes on to tell police that she did spend time with Danielle earlier that afternoon, at a place now familiar to investigators.
She had seen Danielle the day before at the creek during school hours.
So quickly found out that she actually skipped part of the day and went to the creek. So now this is starting a lot of more questions than answers.
Alexis was able to provide investigators with 2 photos taken from the creek the day before. Danielle seemed to be enjoying herself. She was smiling. These images were, final images of Danielle that we're aware of.
As I'm looking at pictures of Danielle, she has some glasses on. If you look, there's four people in the background.
In the reflection of the eyeglasses, you can see other people. And it just takes a matter of moments to figure out who those people are. So it's actually an incredibly valuable piece of evidence.
Investigators consider if the afternoon at the creek is somehow connected to Danielle's disappearance.
Establishing what exactly transpired at the creek was super, super important. We had to figure that out pretty quick.
Detectives then set out to identify and interview all of the teens that were present. One of the first they interview is Danielle's friend, Caroline. She tells them that 2 days before her disappearance, a heartbroken Danielle shared some stunning news.
I remember her texting me in gym class, and I went to go see her, and she just started bawling instantly, which is not her characteristic at all. She told me about Jamichael and that he had cut things off with her and that she was really upset. And she started asking me about the creek and where I go when I skip. And I was like, do you want to see it? And then we went down there and we just joked around for a little bit.
That evening, Danielle encountered her Aunt Sheena when she returned home. The next afternoon, the day Danielle went missing, she and Caroline stealthily returned.
The next day, we spent the day there. I remember it being sunny and warm. There's probably at least 6 kids down there. We had laid out beach towels and blankets. She was just laughing the whole time. I didn't think she was sad anymore at all. That was the last time I saw Danny, my final day with her. I just feel like that was a good day to have with her. If I had to pick a last day with somebody, that was a good one.
Danielle was able to burn up about an hour and a half, 2 hours of her day down there at the creek with her friends before she kind of snuck back onto the school property and walked back in undetected.
After school, Danielle went home before heading out later that evening. Detectives wonder if Danielle didn't visit Alexis that night. Did she meet up with Jamichael?
Once we established that she did have a boyfriend, we wanted to talk to him as well.
Jamichael tells the police that Danielle was having such a hard time with the breakup that she kept bugging Jamichael, and he said he had to block her from his phone, so he hadn't talked to her in days.
Detectives then ask where he was on the night Danielle went missing.
Jamichael tells investigators that he was at home with his friend, Dominic. Those two were tight. I mean, they were like brothers. But he hadn't left the house, and he was there all night. Investigators asked for consent to do a forensic analysis of his phone and the contents within it. He surrendered that phone to us with no problems. That extra step to reassure us that he didn't know where she was.
As they sift through the messages on Jamichael's phone, they make a shocking discovery.
Several days before she went missing, she was saying to him that she had taken a test and was in fact pregnant with his baby.
Messages concerning her pregnancy raised a lot of alarms. We had to assume that she is pregnant, and we're looking for a pregnant teenager.
It was obvious that there was a lot of anger, and Jamichael didn't believe that Danielle was pregnant. So this seems to be something that they were fighting about.
Did Jamichael's anger spill over the night Danielle disappeared? When they locate the texts from that evening, however, they discover something else.
Police learned from Jamichael's phone that he was home that night, texting with other girls. Looks like he was home all night, as he said he was.
To Danielle's family, the turmoil in her personal life comes as a surprise.
So I didn't really hear anything about any of the pregnancy scare stuff. When I found out that she was thinking about being sexually active, I immediately took her to the doctors to get her put on birth control. But she didn't really seem like there was that much that was bothering her.
In hopes of unearthing new clues, detectives file a subpoena for Danielle's cell data. Then, they retrace her steps from the day she went missing, starting with her walk from school to the creek.
Investigators discovered the camera aiming at the sidewalk, which leads to the trail to the creek.
This surveillance video of Danielle is proof of what Danielle was doing that day before she disappeared.
In March, a few days before Danielle disappeared, she and her aunt threw a birthday party for her uncle.
My husband was turning 65, and I got together with Danielle and asked if she would bake the cake. And she said yes. She was really excited about that. So the day arose. Everyone was enjoying themselves. My husband loved the cake. The cake was delicious. And really, it just breaks my heart because that was the last time that I seen her.
Two days after she is reported missing, investigators review security footage of Danielle on the day she vanished.
It was certainly of interest to investigators at that point because it was earlier in the day that she went missing later that evening. Danielle was seen walking toward the creek. It captured her stopping, putting her head down, kind of putting her head in her hands as if she may have been upset or thinking about something. And then she moves out of view.
Police are also learning that she is absolutely heartbroken about her breakup with Jamichael Malloy. It's possible that Danielle may have thought that she was pregnant. She had a lot going on for a 15-year-old.
I don't think we'll ever know exactly what was going through her mind, but, it's obvious something's there.
Then investigators get another critical clue when the location data from her cell phone comes through.
When we started to receive those records to see what her movements were the night she went missing, it showed her in that area of her residence. And then it showed her heading towards I-95. It started going north, roughly about 8 miles before it cut off.
Danielle's phone last pinged a cell tower at 10:40 p.m. Investigators combed that area for Danielle's cell phone, to no avail. But the location data presents them with a new theory of her disappearance.
It told a story of leaving Hope Mills in a very, very fast manner, faster than one could walk. She had to have been in a vehicle. At that point, we definitely had to entertain the possibility that this young girl was abducted walking down the road and taken quickly out, towards I-95.
We've gotten the federal authorities and FBI involved. We were able, from social media, from pictures of the family, to get descriptions as well as photographs of Danielle out there and really try to push them out.
Just a few days after she's reported missing, Danielle's disappearance makes national news.
Basically, every news channel, everywhere you could possibly put news, that was Danny's face.
I want my baby to come home. That's my baby girls. No one knows what a mother goes through when I feel like my heart is ripped out. If you please know where my daughter is, any information, please. Tell her to come home. Or Danielle, if you see this, come home, baby. I love you.
Danielle's ex-boyfriend also joins the efforts to find her.
Jermichael was right there in the huddle with us, looking for, making the plan, where we're going to go, what we're going to search, who we're going to talk to next. We did everything within our power, making phone calls, calling friends, making flyers, sending faxes. Our attitude was that, do whatever's necessary to find her. And we're praying and hoping that you find her alive.
While the search for Danielle continues across the United States, detectives continue to interview classmates who were at the creek the day Danielle disappeared. And one of them points to a former student with a questionable past.
Investigators learned about Derek through another individual. He told us about Derek, how, he potentially had something to do with her disappearance.
The other kids had told the police that Derek maybe was interested in Danielle and that maybe she had rejected him and that maybe he had something to do with her disappearance.
Detective suspicions are raised when they learn that Derek lives near the area where Danielle's cell phone last pinged.
We took him to the sheriff's office voluntarily. We felt that several things he told us, they didn't sit easy with us.
Investigators are questioning a former student who lives in the area where Danielle Locklear's phone last pinged.
The best way to describe Derek is he's kind of like the school truant. Has been expelled a few times, but he still hangs out with the kids from the high school. And Derek was at the creek on the day that Danielle was there.
Let me ask you something. Was Danny hot? Oh, yeah, she was a very beautiful girl.
Was you infatuated with her? You kind of have like a secret crush?
No, she seemed a little too preppy. She seemed like a goody-goody. And honestly, I don't hang out with goody-goodies. Goody-goodies have a bad habit of snitching. I ain't gonna lie. I do illegal things, and I know I do.
Derek was unique in the fact that he was very outspoken. He admits to not liking her, that she's too preppy. That's not his cup of tea. He made it clear that, he does illegal things. We don't hear that very often.
Let's put Derek's posturing aside. Let's look at the facts. Where was Derek on the night that Danielle disappeared?
When questioned on his whereabouts during the hours of 8:30 p.m. to 12:30 the next morning, Derek says he was at his father's house.
Around 8:30, my dad left to go to a pool tournament. I stayed on the computer, job searching. Between Facebook, job searching, and TV, that's what I was doing all night.
He was alone for those hours, which is also very suspicious. There's no one else in the home with him.
Derek is certainly someone that has raised investigators' suspicion at this point.
Detectives then turn to the location of the final cell ping from Danielle's phone.
But we know where Danielle's phone was. Okay, what area her phone was. It's out there around your house. In that general area. Okay, I'm not saying it's right at your house, but in the general area. And that was Tuesday night, 22:45, which would be 10:45. I'm asking you, was she alive when she left that area out there around your house?
I have no idea, I didn't see her.
You're telling me you have no knowledge whatsoever of what happened to Danielle Locklear?
No, sir.
But police aren't convinced Derek is telling the truth.
Police decide they're going to take this a little bit deeper. Police get a search warrant and they search Derek's house.
We do a search of that property based on the information provided.
While examining the property, investigators immediately observe something alarming.
What police find is a shovel. And there was something on there that looked like blood.
The shovel appeared to have what we thought was blood on it. So, we ran some tests on it.
But when the police took the shovel in for forensic examination, they determined that it was not blood on the shovel.
So at this point, there was nothing tying Derek directly to Danielle's disappearance.
People tried to say that Derek had done something to her or hurt her in some way. A lot of very mean things that he did not deserve.
We reached a point, where we couldn't rule him out, but we couldn't corroborate what he's saying to us. We didn't have enough to keep moving forward with him. So we regrouped and started to pick up where the evidence left off again.
Then, on April 2nd, 22 days after Danielle disappeared, an off-duty police officer discovers something concerning off a bridge about 20 miles outside of Hope Mills. He immediately calls 911.
Is there a deputy close by with a pair of binoculars so I can make sure there's not a body in the water?
On April 2nd, 3 weeks after Danielle disappeared, an off-duty cop calls 911 for assistance.
Is there a deputy close by with a pair of binoculars so I can make sure there's not a body in the water?
Okay, I just got up with Edward 6. As soon as he cleared his call, he could be en route to you.
Once he got the binoculars, he was able to see that it was, in fact, a body in the river.
Detectives race to the scene.
When the body was pulled from the water, I recognized personally the shirt that was on the body as being the shirt that Danielle was pictured wearing at the creek. It was heartbreaking. We knew at some point we were going to have to tell her family that the worst outcome possible was now a reality.
When Danielle's body was recovered from the water, there was a center block tied around her waist that was tied with yellow rope. There was also another center block tied around her feet, again with yellow rope.
The cinder blocks were of the coarse gravel. They were definitely an older cinder block. They weren't like the crushed fine concrete you see typically in today's cinder blocks.
Once police receive a positive identification from the medical examiner, they notify Danielle's family.
It was very hard. It was hard. It was a hard day.
At that point, my heart couldn't take it. I couldn't take it. It was horrifying.
I just kept thinking, this can't be real. Like, this is like the worst thing that could possibly have happened. I just felt like I could never really believe it in my mind that she was gone.
As Danielle's family and friends begin to mourn, detectives get to work. The medical examiner concludes that Danielle had been strangled. And they find something else.
It also noted that there was a sock that had been stuffed into her mouth.
It's a match to the night sock Aunt Chena found on the creek trail weeks earlier.
The sock was listed as part of the death. The medical examiner could not rule out the actual mechanism for her death. Was it strangulation or was it the sock? Only thing they could say was it was from both.
The other important fact that the medical examiner is able to provide is that Danielle Locklear was not pregnant. It's possible that Danielle may have thought that she was pregnant at a certain time, but she was not pregnant when she was killed.
Detectives theorize that Danielle was murdered at the creek, and her body was disposed in the river about 20 miles away. To investigators, the location of the disposal site seems significant.
The South River, where Danielle was found, is a little under a mile from Jamichael Malloy's residence.
Despite his alibi, Jamichael is now the focus of the investigation.
It only added to my suspicion, based on everything to that point, that he had everything to do with this, and we were going to chase down every bit of evidence we could to make sure that we could hold him responsible.
Detectives prepare a search warrant for his house and bring him into the station for questioning.
Jamichael willingly comes in. His mother goes with him because she is now really worried.
It don't look good. That body, really, how did it get down there? Somebody could be trying to frame you.
They have to prove that. I need 2 months. Okay.
Investigators press Jamichael on his involvement in Danielle's murder.
You think I'm a smart kid? Yeah, I do think you're a smart kid. Why in the world would I put her down the street and around the corner? Because more often than not, that's what people do. You know, based on my experience, they tend to not want to leave their comfort zone. Y'all seen y'all ping my phone and seen I was at home, so.
Investigators then inform the Malloys that officers are searching their home.
We have cooperated to the full. But now that you're searching my house, we're going to use our attorney.
Yes, ma'am. You ready for my home?
Yes, sir. Right now.
I'm going to go.
While Jamichael is being interrogated at the police station, other officers are searching his property. And they find something unbelievable. Cinder blocks that match exactly to the cinder blocks that were tied around Danielle's body. At his home, in the soil, they find the indentation, the marks left from the cinder blocks that had been there and had been removed. Then they find rope, very similar to the kind that had been tied around Danielle's body. Obviously, cops are trying to get a confession out of Jamichael. They're putting the evidence on the table and saying, Jamichael, it had to have been you. The cops think this is the aha moment, but Jamichael doesn't crack. He doesn't confess. He is so calm.
Jamichael's best friend, Dominic Locke, is also brought in for questioning. But he refuses to speak with detectives.
Everything points to Jamichael, but we don't have the probable cause to go ahead and charge him. We wrapped it up, let him go on his way, and told him we're going to see you again. This ain't over.
"4 days after denying he had anything to do with Danielle's murder, Jamichael Malloy tells police he's ready to talk again. Jamichael explains that on the night of the murder, he and his friend Dominic drove to Danielle's home.
I was like, all right, I'm ready to get this pregnancy thing done. So I had took my wallet and I threw it against her window.
To get out of the house, Danielle told her grandfather that she needed to drop off a notebook at her friend's house.
She came out and everything. She got in the car and we went to the creek. We sat down and talked for a while. And she was cursing me out, still being mean to me. And I'm just trying to shove it off. And she was supposed to take a pregnancy test in front of me. I told her, no matter what, if you're pregnant or not, I'm going to do what I got to do. If this is my kid, DNA proven and everything. But I'm not going to be with you. And that's when she snapped on me. She punched me in my face. She slapped me and jumped on top of me and got all over me and stuff.
According to Jamichael, in the middle of their alleged fight, he snapped.
All I remember was I grabbed her. I was choking her. I blacked out. Next thing I knew, she wasn't breathing. And I freaked out.
Jamichael says he goes up to where Dominic is, waiting by the car, and explains that he's just killed Danielle. And says, Dominic, you've got to help me. Dominic and Jamichael walk back down to the creek where Danielle's body is. And they start to pick her up and carry her back.
The sock that Sheena found likely fell off along the way. According to Jamichael, Dominic shoved the remaining sock into her mouth.
Why would he do that? She was making a noise. Yeah, but if I could nurse and nobody would hear it. Yeah, me and Dominic got in the car. Yeah, drove back to my house. I went and got the rope and the cinder block. And tied her up, put her in the car, threw her over the side into the river.
With his confession on record, Jamichael Malloy and Dominic Locke are arrested and charged with second-degree murder.
It was terrible. I mean, to get that information, and we had been searching about a month, having Jamichael with us during those searches, saying, have you heard anything? Oh, I pray that she's okay, and we'll find her. All of these things, all the time knowing exactly where she was.
Jamichael betrayed us as a family. He knew that she was precious to us and that we would never stop looking for her. To go and pick her lifeless body up and toss her in the river like she was nothing. Not one time did you say, oh my God, I made a terrible mistake. I've got to call for help.
In a tragic twist, investigators suspect that Danielle lied to Jamichael about being pregnant in order to gain his attention. But one question remains: the texts from Jamichael's phone that placed him at home the night of Danielle's murder.
A specialist in phone analysis was able to uncover that Jamichael had used a texting app where you could schedule your phone to send out text at a future time. And so he had left his phone at his house, but yet his phone was still sending text to friends as if he was still at his house.
In May of 2016, Jamichael Malloy pleads guilty to second-degree murder. At his sentencing, he turns to speak to Danielle's heartbroken family.
There's nothing I can do there or I can say that's going to bring her back. But I do want to apologize for the actions that I made.
He is sentenced to 25 to 31 years in prison. Dominic Locke pleads guilty to accessory after the fact and is sentenced to 6 to 8 years behind bars.
You never get over something like this. You learn to live with it. My sister is never going to be the same. Danielle was more than a niece to me, and I'm just thankful for those years I shared with her.
Years later, friends and family still cherish their final moments with Danielle.
Janie was just a great person to be around, and I don't think I can ever forget the person she was. You'd think after years and years, and it being high school, it would fade a little bit. I always thought it would. I would get older and I would get over it. But Danny was too much of a good person and a bright person and such a positive energy in life that you can't forget that.
When she left the house that day, she said, "Okay, bye-bye, Grandma." I said, "Okay, bye-bye." It was real quick, like that. And as she was going out the door, she's like, "I love you, Grandma." I'm forever grateful to her. And I thank the Lord every day for letting me have that moment, that last moment with her. And I always love her.